to kickstart the program without not wasting much of your time. So I'm going to call on our guest today. He's also our one of our alumni. To be precise, maybe the second set. I'm not sure, maybe second set or third set. So in the person of Mr. Shino, Mr. Shino Akinton. So I know he's going to introduce himself to us. You are welcome, sir. So you can carry on.
Thank you so much. All right. My name is Shino Akinton. I graduated 2010, 2011, of course, mechanical engineering. I'm the same set with Adibeye Adeyemi, who's on the call as well, and a couple of other folks that I know. I think Amzat, um, a set or two, maybe afternoon. But again, it's a pleasure to be here. This is a great opportunity to connect with, current students and in fact, those who have graduated right after. Um, I was tasked to present on avoiding unemployment, strategies for mechanical engineering graduates. What I'm going to be sharing with you over this session is not what you haven't heard before. It's the same reality that I lived, right? Some of the
Yeah.
personal lessons, the things that I saw myself, and some of the things that I, in my opinion, did or could have done to have avoided some of the headaches that I had while trying to secure a job.
Hmm.
So it's going to be about 30 minutes or so session through the presentation, and you guys can, follow up with questions and things like that. So I'll move on to the next slide, so we can kind of lay out the content of the conversation, right? So I'll talk a little bit about myself, right? How did I get here? What was the order? What did I do? I mean, just some things about myself, right? Some can you relate items, some economic trends about Nigeria, right? Some hope about there's an upside, right? Things are not always as bad as it seems. There's always an upside to everything. What are the key drivers in unemployment? Some people don't believe in the power of push and pull. I do, right? There are things that drive a good thing and a bad thing. We need to understand what it is so we can better position ourselves for success. How do you avoid, some self limiters, right? So what are the self limiters? What could you be doing to be limiting your own growth, right? What are the hot skills out there, right? Some advice and of course how to get in touch. So I'll go on and move on to the next slide. Good. So a little bit about myself. I have a Bachelor of Science degree in mechanical engineering from OOE, of course. Like I said, I graduated in 2010/2011. I can't remember exactly what year. I think it's 11 that we actually graduated. I do have a master's in industrial and systems engineering from Southern Illinois University. I have work experience, of course, in research, manufacturing, and over the last 6 years, I've been working in supply chain and logistics. At this moment, I'm a regional engineering manager for industrial engineering here in the Dallas area. One of the things I enjoy doing is reading, hiking, and of course, playing tennis. That's just a little bit about myself. There's a little headshot just to, um, I guess, add substance to the conversation. So for the guys who can't perhaps see me on video, you guys can have an idea of what I look like. Let's keep going. So through the course of this conversation, if you have any questions, feel free to interject. If you want to wait till the end of the presentation, that's fine as well. So the next slide is saying, can you relate, right? All of us have had people tell us, hey, you got to do this, so you can get here. And guess what? Get to work, right? You get to work, you do your best, you graduate, and you're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? A lot of people fell into that trap. I would call it a trap, right? It's really the reality of things. I personally fell into it, right? How do I secure a job right after graduation, right? And it's the same for everybody. Even if you are in an advanced country where there are a ton of opportunities, there are times where you're gonna have to second guess yourself. and say, can I really pull, can I pull this through? Can I secure a job, right? And that within itself can throw a lot of people off, right? But don't be thrown off. It's the reality. I can relate with you. I'm sure people who have graduated years and years, before us had the same experience. There is always a way to make it out of that situation, and that's really what we want to get to here in the next couple of slides. But before we get there, I want to talk about some economic numbers. If you move over to the next slide. Yeah, so it's not you, right? The economy is struggling. I mean, when you take a look at it, a lot is stacked against you. So your opportunity is just fighting through those odds, right? It's how do I beat the system? When you take a look at it, the GDP of Nigeria hasn't seen a significant growth since 2014. Okay, there is a connection between employment rates and GDP, right? Again, why am I pointing this out? Just to let you know that you are not living in a bubble. You are living in a system, and the system is not creating enough opportunity for you to get a job. So don't beat yourself up when you have to put in a lot more work to get a job. Okay. The GDP has not been the strongest it could be, right? In fact, since 2014, it's been stagnant at best, right? So there's just a lot that needs to be done for you to overcome the challenges that the economy is giving to you. If you go over to the next slide, there are some other economic numbers from manufacturing to production, right? Most of what you do from a mechanical engineering standpoint has to do with manufacturing. Some, service for the most part is the manufacturing of product. When you take a look at the indices, right, over the last 2 years, it's been going down, right? It's been going down. So that's a challenge within itself. Why am I pointing this out? Because you don't live in a bubble. Whatever goes on there, right, affects you, right? So understanding this will let you appreciate your own struggle. It will let you beat yourself up less, right? Because you understand that you just have to fight a little harder. Things are hard. If you move over to the next slide, when you take a look at the employment rate, it's been tanking. It's been coming down, I think, since 2015. And this data source here is from the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, right? I mean, it's been going down. When you take a look at this, this is telling you 1 out of every 4 Nigerian is unemployed. Is unemployed, right? So that's a challenge within itself. Again, you are not living in a bubble, right? Things are happening around you. It has resultant effect on who you are and your chances, and you need to put that at the back of your mind. The next thing is, how do you structure yourself to beat this ordeal, right? How do you fight against this, right? That's how you secure a job. So if you move over to the next slide, there's some upside I want to share with you. Things are not as gloomy as it seems, okay? The chances are hard, don't get me wrong, but things are not as gloomy as it seems. The first one says you can outwork and outsmart a broken system. Opportunities are always boundless. Okay, no matter how bad things are, you can outwork it, you can outsmart it, right? And you can have opportunities elsewhere. Okay, if you move over to the next, if you click next, please. Why you wait on Canada? Do something. Everyone wants to move to Canada. I don't live in Canada, of course, but everyone I know is talking about Canada and Nigeria. I want to move to Canada. Yes, you can. Yes, you will. But why you wait to move to Canada? Do something. Can you get an advanced degree, right? Can you get some technical certifications, right? Those are the kind of things you should start thinking about. If you go over to the next bullet point, please. Don't forget the forces of supply and demand, right? Again, push pull. When there's a push, there's going to be a pull. Or when there's a pull, there's going to be a push. These things work hand in hand. The first law of physics says for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? You are not living in a bubble, okay? The forces of supply and demand always play into it. The next point is skills are always in demand. When I say skills, I'm talking about real solid skills. What differentiates you from the other guy? When you take a look at the normal distribution of skills, right? Most people, fall within that, one standard deviation away from the mean. You are not gonna stand out by staying there. You have to expand your chances, right? You gotta move over 2 standard deviation away from mean, 3 standard deviation away from mean. That's how you set yourself aside, set yourself apart, right? It makes you a unique person in terms of the skills you offer. If you go over to the next bullet point, build a good resume. I've seen tons of resume and I'm like, too much typo. There is no flow to this. I don't understand what you've done in the past. It's just a bunch of copy and paste, a lot of typographical errors. It doesn't speak well of you when you are trying to apply for a job. Get a solid resume, get it peer reviewed, send it to your professor, have them help you critique it, right? Send it to someone you know who is a mentor of yours. Have them go through it and give you ideas about what you can do. In fact, I personally would volunteer to modify or edit or critique anyone's resume if you want, right? But you got to get a good resume going. A good resume gets you in the door. How you get the job is how you interview. So if you go over to the next point, is learn to interview well. How do I, right? How do I go into an interview, answer questions, show them I've got talent and I got something to offer, right? It's important. There are skills and ways to do this, but the way to do it is to begin, right? You can have mock interviews with your, friends, with your professors, but it doesn't really change the game. You got to get in front of the employer, start interviewing, right? When you do this time and time again, you get to get really good at it, and it gives you an opportunity to secure a job. If you keep going to the next point, maximize your social circle. Who do you know, right? One thing I know is, I always say this: I know one person in every corner of the world. It's not because I know that person for a fact, but I know one person that does, right? You have to maximize your social circle. When you're looking for a job, everyone around you should know you're looking for a job, right? It could be your mechanic, it could be your family friend, it could be your pastor, your imam. Everyone around you should know, because these people interact with other people and they hear about opportunities. They need to bring those opportunities to you so you can apply for it. But if they don't know you are looking for a job, they can't help you, right? So maximizing your social circle is important, right? Having a LinkedIn profile, a well-crafted LinkedIn profile would help you. Even if it's your Facebook profile, you never can tell. So when you have, social media accounts, take a look at it as an opportunity to expand your reach and to connect with opportunities across the world. If you go over to the next slide, there is no silver bullet, right? I went through it. It was a struggle. Everyone on this call who has a job today has gone through a challenge or so trying to secure a job. There is no, silver bullet, no crystal ball, right? You have to go through the process. It takes time. Don't be disappointed. Don't be discouraged, right? Put in the work. You are gonna clinch that job in a shorter amount of time. So always have patience as you keep pushing. Let's go over to the next slide. So I want to talk about a few other things that I've seen in my own. Okay, there's one more here. Yeah, you are the lucky ones. This generation, right? This generation of people coming into the workforce are very lucky. I mean, the tech world is in full bloom, right? You can learn a lot of stuff. Internet is everywhere. There's a lot you can learn on it, and it just makes you a viable candidate than say me when I was looking for a job, or even the likes of folks who came before me, right? It was much more challenging. You can learn a lot of things today that you wouldn't have been able to learn years ago, right? You are the lucky ones. You can turn the tides around and you can secure a job. So let's move over to the next to the next slide. Self limiters, right? What are you doing to limit your own opportunities? A lot of us are quick to blame other people, blame the system, blame our school, blame our colleges for not getting what we want. But sometimes we lose sight of the things we are doing on a personal front that is denying us this opportunity to get a job or to do whatever we want to do. So I have a few bullet points I want to share with you guys. Don't be hard on yourself. Take this with open minds and embrace it. Is having unfounded religious beliefs, right? Some religious beliefs that God does not manufacture jobs. God does not fix roads. He has put some people in charge of doing those things for us. Okay, we have to hold those people accountable. You cannot be a religious and ethnic bigot. You know why? Because the person would be helping you may be someone from a different faith, someone from a different ethnic group. It doesn't matter. What you care about is an opportunity. So if your religious belief either Christian, Muslim, or whatnot, right, is stopping you from interacting people and seeing things the way they are, you need to get rid of it, right? You need to be clear-minded, clear-eyed, look at what you're looking for, right? And work with people around you to get there. Don't be misogynistic, right? Some people have that, and it could be a limiting factor. Get rid of those negative things that have turned into baggages on you, and you can't make headways. Okay. The next one is mediocrity and aversion for facts, right? The idea of, yeah, we don't need to know the detail. We don't need facts. Things just run on their own. When I started this presentation, I talked about some economic numbers because you don't live in a bubble. You might like to think you do, right? You don't, right? Don't have aversion for facts. Facts are facts. They are stubborn. They don't go away. And always, always inch away from mediocrity, right? Strive for perfection. The idea is not to be perfect, but we should strive to be perfect, okay? Then the next thing is numbers don't lie. It doesn't lie. No matter how you feel, numbers do not lie. The economic numbers are the economic numbers. The manufacturing numbers are the manufacturing numbers, right? The unemployment numbers are the unemployment numbers. Knowing this lets you understand where you stand. And it lets you go back to the drawing board and chart ways that sets you aside, right? And that way you can, secure the job that you want. If you move over to the next one, is integrity, right? Some people think, I can con my way here, I can lie on my resume, I can this, I can that. Yeah, it's probably going to get you somewhere, but it's not going to take you too far. We all want someone we can trust. Someone we can trust. So people would give you an opportunity if they feel they can trust you. It is important. Do not let go of your integrity. Now, I have a few other bullet points if you click next here that I really want to emphasize. Decisions are like interest rates. They have a compounding effect. When you make a good decision, it's going to compound. Okay? When you make a bad one, it's going to compound as well. Having that at the back of your mind all the time makes you, want to make good decisions all the time because whatever you do, there are going to be consequences for it. So as you make decisions, take a look at what the compounding effect is and use that to guide yourself. And the next one is talent is scarce. Okay, everyone keeps saying, I got talent, I got talent. And I've asked people this, I said, what's your talent? They struggle to articulate it. Or they say something so banal or so blank. I'm like, well, that doesn't really change anything. It doesn't set you aside. Don't forget, I talked about the normal distribution. If you are within, +1 or ±1 of the mean, you are not setting yourself aside. That's where the majority of the population is. You need to move further to the right, right? 2 deviations from the mean, 3 deviations from the mean. That's when you set yourself aside. Every successful person I know is looking for someone to mentor, is looking for someone to have an opportunity to. Make yourself that viable person, okay? And for you to do that, those 4 bullet points at the top, right? Getting rid of any unfounded religious beliefs, being a mediocre, right? Is choosing to ignore numbers and not having integrity, right? It would make it harder for you to find people who trust you enough to give you opportunities. Is this making sense? Any questions at this point? Okay. All right, we keep going. I'd say next. All right, so what are the hard skills? You guys, I've seen it on the WhatsApp chats. You guys talk about, is it CAD and CAM? Is it this? Is it that? You know what? It's everything. It's everything. But there are some I've highlighted here that, in my own opinion, can set you aside, right? It's not just having, an overview knowledge of how these things work. It's saying what matters. When you connect with the numbers, you connect with the economic trend, you can ask yourself what skill is going to be hot over the next 5 to 10 years. And you can go and develop a specialty within that field. So if you go ahead and click next, I'll share a few things that I know. One is technical skills. And here, if you guys take a look at it, I didn't say just technical skills. I said effective technical skills. Is it CAD and CAM, right? Is it process and instrumentation design? These are things you can learn. At least to the best of my understanding, they still teach CAD and CAM in OOU, right? It may not be adequate enough to compensate for what's being done in the advanced world, but it's enough to get you in the door, right? PLCs, programmable logical control. You guys get taught controls engineering. There are PLC modules out there that you can put your hands on. There are even remote and virtual ways of learning this, right? It sets you aside. Another one is statistics, right? A lot of folks do not like statistics because it hurts their feelings. You saw me talking about normal distribution, the bell curve. It's important. It's one of those skills that set you aside. Modeling, right? A lot of what we do, we all like to have an hint about, what's this going to generate? What's the impact of this, right? In economics and finance and manufacturing, even industrial and systems engineering, they're always talking about modeling, right? For me personally, one of the jobs I clinched when I was in Nigeria was because I had a good understanding of modeling. Don't forget, this was in finance, but I had modeling experience that could be applied to finance, right? Another one is just understanding the financial world. How does it work? Work measurement, that's another field, right? Particularly for you guys in mechanical, you guys would take work measurement or not economics, work measurement and work sampling, right? Very, very important skill. The next one is programming, right? There are a lot of programming skills you can pick up. Could it be Python, SQL, right? Even VBA, those skills are important. Then the next thing I think that can set you aside is the analytical and problem solving skills, right? Is it mechanical aptitude? FMEA, failure modes and event analysis. Being able to connect the dots is what's required of you as a graduate of mechanical engineering, right? Having those skills set you aside. The next one is data analysis, right? Again, that kind of ties back to statistics. Can you analyze data, right? It sets you apart. The next one, if you click on next, is your communication skills. How do you communicate? I see a lot of people, they tell me so much, but there's no substance. I can't hold on to something, right? So when choose to have brevity, be very concise, let people know where you are at, what you want, and where you want to go in a very short sense, right? Don't overstretch your communication. You got to be effective about it. Is it written? Is it oral? Or is it data visualization? All right. As we've gone through this, I've used data, right? I've used data to kind of visualize where we are as a country, right? So you guys can understand where things are. Being able to have those skills and use them to communicate would set you aside. And the next one is the commercial awareness, right? People think, well, as an engineer, you're just an engineer. No, there's an economic value to being an engineer. When you understand what kind of economic value you bring, then you can provide good business justification. Easy, payback period analysis, or you're doing an ROI for a project, right? Those things are important. Understanding budgeting, right? How do I create a budget? What goes into a budget? How do I create a unit price? How do I develop an economics of scale if I choose to ramp up production to a certain extent, right? All those things matter. And lastly here, if you click on next, is the emotional intelligence. This is often underrated, right? Emotional intelligence is how you comport yourself. It's that poise, the way you act, how you communicate, how you react. Of course, emotional intelligence, some would say, is innate, you're born with it or you don't have it. But it can be learned. But it can be learned only when you're in an environment where such thing is prevalent, and in the environment where you see yourself as needing to have emotional intelligence to move forward. So all of these are important. Put this at the back of your mind as you go through your job hunt. I'll move over to the next slide. I'm kind of going a little fast here so I can get you guys kind of caught up so we can take some questions later. So yes, some life advice from my own personal, experience. I was listening to this in, I think it was June of 2015, where Father James Martin was making a presentation to some graduates, and he had these 3 bullet points that really stuck with me. The first one is, you are not God. Okay, you can't help everybody. You can't solve all the world's problem. Stop trying to assume the responsibility of God. Okay, do what you can with what you have. It is important. Another one is, this is not heaven. If you want things to be perfect before you make a move, well, you're going to wait forever. There is no perfect time, right? It's not going to be perfect. Take it as it is. Keep moving. It's like a continuous improvement chain, right? If I improve every day, then I'm going to be better. But here's the deal. Some people would let better get in the way of good, right? Because I can't get the better, then I'm not going to take the good. Don't do that. Get the good, keep moving, it's going to get better. And the last one here is don't be a jerk. A lot of people would sit, they will whine, they will complain, the economy, the people, the culture, the school. You can complain about all of that. Valid. They are all valid things to complain about, but don't be a jerk about it. Okay? Keep moving. Do not stop. And lastly here, I want to talk about the iceberg illusion. The iceberg illusion is when people see you succeed, they're always quick to say, oh, success is easy, or you can just do it. You didn't have to do anything. But success within itself is like an iceberg. When you take a look at the bottom, I guess the foundation work to success, you're gonna see a lot of persistence, right? Another one is a lot of failure. You're gonna stumble a couple of times. It's okay. You're gonna have to sacrifice, right? You're gonna be disappointed, but you're gonna have to keep your head up, right? Good habits. I kind of mentioned that in the conversation. Hard work, hard, smart work would set you aside. Dedication, having a passion for your goal and going for it. And what people see is the success. They don't see all these things when you're doing it. So it's important for you to craft, I guess, a future for yourself and say, why am I doing what I'm doing? When you understand that and when you embrace it, it sets you aside. So it is important to focus on, the bottom line, right? What's important to you rather than what do people want to see. And once you do that, you begin to see value in what you're doing. And lastly here, there's another deck, another slide that, I kind of put in here just in case you guys want to get in touch. I would expect as an aspiring graduate or as a graduate already, you would have a LinkedIn page. You would have a LinkedIn profile, right? Please create one, create good resumes. I have my email address here. If you want an opinion on your resume or you're thinking about an opportunity and you want a second voice, hey, I don't have the crystal ball. I don't have the silver bullet. I can't tell you what's going to happen next year. I can't tell you what skill is going to be the highest earning field in the next couple of years. But I can tell you what I know. At the end of the day, it is incumbent upon you to take that information and act in your own best interest, right? Again, your mentors are not God, right? They don't know everything. Your mentors are not, they can't solve all your problems. At the end of the day, the onus lies on you to act in your own best interest. So that's my email address. If you guys want to keep in touch or, send me an email, ask about any question, I'll be more than happy to help out. And lastly, I did have a link to my LinkedIn page. It's not the best LinkedIn page, let's be candid, right? But it's a LinkedIn page. So if you want to mimic yours after that, if you want to create one or connect with me, there are always opportunities that are, my first job, I found it on LinkedIn. I kid you not, right? So I think for you as an aspiring graduate, it's one of those things you want to plug into so you can expand your reach, particularly socially. That's all I have. I'll take a pause here. I'll take any questions from you guys, if there are any at all.
Mr. Amzat Oladimiji, you can go ahead.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. And good evening, Akintan Shina. My question would be straight. I'm going to ask, I think, what do you have to say to people that should be entrepreneurs on the field? Did you get that?
I did. So some people want to be entrepreneurs, and that's okay. Mechanical engineering offers you that opportunity. And one of the things I would point out, I guess I didn't speak to this when I started the presentation, is your curriculum for mechanical engineering in OOU is just similar to the same curriculum they use in Stanford, they use in the best schools out here in the States. No kidding, right? You're gonna learn finance, you're gonna learn engineering economics, manufacturing, all of that stuff. It's the same thing. So at the end of the day, I think a mechanical engineering degree as structured in OOU prepares you to be an entrepreneur. Now, being an entrepreneur is a skill within itself, and it has a lot of risks, right? And you got to know that going in. personally, I am not inclined to being an entrepreneur. It's not just what I think I can do, right? I want to set up my own deal later, but that's not just my forte right now. But I would encourage people who want to be entrepreneurs, right, to find a space where there's a need for what they do. Okay, setting yourself apart, understanding the push and pull of business, right? It's very, very important. Leveraging best practices across the board, right? I think for me, those are really the things I can really offer. You know, at the end of the day, you don't exist in isolation. If you want to be an entrepreneur, are you selling service? Are you selling product? When you're selling service, right? How do I expand my reach? You can be in Nigeria and create service for people all around the world. When you're selling product, it can be the same thing, but with product is slightly different because you have a lot of competing alternatives, right? How do you set yourself apart in those fields such that you stand unique, right? And you get enough value for what you do are questions you're gonna have to answer. I always encourage people to go that route if that's what they want, but overall, it all depends on how you wanna push it. I hope that answers your question. I don't know if there's any silver bullet.
Yes, it does.
Thanks.
Okay. I would like to ask one question. That's based on the skill you acquire, is it possible for someone to go into enterprise in terms of giving service to people?
You ask that's a good question, right? So what would you be doing as an entrepreneur who is a mechanical engineer offering service? I'll give you a good example. So in most manufacturing firms, right, they always have business challenges. And in some that I've worked in, we always have consultants come work with us, right? Maybe we call that consultancy, that's service, right? I'll give you a good example. When I was with Pinnacle Foods, they did acquire, I think it was about $60 billion manufacturing line, right? And they had problem with maximizing productivity on the line. You know, it's downtime, it's, you know, different issues across the line. They would hire you as a consultant to come in and evaluate that process, right? And talk about and provide solutions to some of the things they can do to maximize productivity. That's offering service, right? But that doesn't happen in isolation. You must have done it in the real life for you to go out there and be a consultant. Another one is, I've seen a lot of reliability engineers doing this. And as a mechanical engineer, you can buy into the reliability line easily, right? And some of the things they do is they do inspection work, right? Structural inspection, right? Mechanical inspection, right? They have all the tools and the techniques to do it, and they offer service in that front. Now, product is different. Product means you are manufacturing something that is tangible, right? And that's a different field entirely. You're gonna have your home manufacturing line, have your home prototypes and all that, right? That's separate. But I think as a mechanical engineer, one of the easiest ways you can plug yourself into as an entrepreneur is to go into service, right? How can I look at a problem? It could be your city. It could be the local government, right? And I'm just making this up, right? They have fleet of cars that they need evaluated, right? You need to help them determine what's viable, what's not, right? You have the skills as mechanical engineer. It could be in the form of maintenance, right? Can you create a maintenance cycle or a maintenance program for your city on how to manage streetlights, on how to manage some critical assets, right? Those are services, and you can do that, I mean, very well as a mechanical engineer, but you need some background. And so people get into this illusion. You cannot give what you don't have, right? If you haven't done it before, if you don't have experience doing it, if you are not critically researched and understand the grime of the business, you may not succeed just trying to go into it. So I'd say if you want to go into service, it's important that you worked in the field, acquired the knowledge, right? And the experience having done in real life, then you can say, you know what, I got the skills now. Now I can support other businesses to solve this problem going forward. Does that make sense?
Okay, thank you. Any other question? Okay, I guess there's no more questions. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Shino. Really appreciate your time and then your lecture this evening. Question here.
Okay.
Okay, the person is Abim Folua Defie. He said, how can one manage gaps in CV?
How can one manage? Are you talking about
Gaps.
employment gap? Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's what I don't know. He said, how can one manage gaps
Good
in
evening.
CV?
Yeah, I'll try and
Maybe
answer
he's
that.
talking about the years
Yeah.
in terms of experience. I don't know.
Good evening.
So-
I'm talking about experience gaps.
Okay.
So let me say this, and I personally will share my own experience, right? My first job in Nigeria was, so I had an internship with Lafarge, right? Your typical 6 months internship, right? And I graduated. I thought I was going to be able to clinch a job so early on, and that did not happen. And what I did was I went back to the company I had my internship with, and I asked them, I spoke with one of the managers. I'm like, hey, I'm trying to get a job. It's hard. I graduated with the first class, blah, blah, blah. I just need a job. And he said something to me I would never forget. He said, anyone that hires you as a graduate is only helping you, as a fresh grad out of college. That was his opinion. But he said this. And then he went ahead to ask me this question. He said, what can you offer as a fresh graduate? And essentially saying you don't have experience, you can't do anything. No, I don't think that's valid. I think as a fresh graduate, and this is the way I answered the question then, and I can remember this very vividly, is telling him that, well, I may not know everything, but I consider myself a fertile ground for knowledge, for experience, and for growth. I don't have any preconceived, notion. I can learn new things and I can apply new ways. Oh, by the way, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. That's how I think you can, pitch that. It's very unrealistic that you have a graduate level job and you're asking them to have 10, 20 years experience. It's nonsense. But don't forget, you are competing in a very, very tight space. Okay, you are competing in a very, very tight space. So how do you compensate for that, right? It's not certifications just for the purpose of having certifications. I kid you not, I got certified in AutoCAD and Inventor in 2010. As at then, it wasn't even taught in school. One of my first jobs in America was because I had that certification. You can stand yourself apart, right? Those are ways you cover those gaps, right? Another one is really how is emotional intelligence, right? When people ask you to justify 20 years experience that you don't have just to get an entry-level job, they are not really asking you to tell them anything else other than, hey, I know I don't have this, but this is what I have, and this is how I plan to use it to close that gap. One of the things I always talk about again is how do you look for something that is yours? Typically, a job that is asking you for 10, 20 years experience is probably not yours. A job you should be looking for, or that should be within your alley, are like graduate or entry-level type jobs, right? Those jobs are committed to teaching you about the process, about the business, say in the first 6 to 1 year of being employed, right? Those are your opportunities. When I left Nigeria years ago, those opportunities, there were a number of them out there, right? I don't know if they are still there today. Those are the niche you would want to compete in. Okay, it doesn't have to be in Nigeria, don't get me wrong. I know a lot of people have come all the way from Nigeria to Canada to US because they have some skills that they can port around. So it's really using skills. Okay, skills don't care about experience. Skills are skills. I may not, used this skill here, but I know how to use the skill. And I always say this: is there a difference between someone who's been doing AutoCAD for 20 years and someone who's been doing it for 5 years? I'd rather hire the guy that's been doing it for 5 years. No joke. You know why? Because he is up to speed. He doesn't have any preconceived notions. He's willing to learn new things and adapt. Adaptability is one of your selling points as a fresh grad and is a way of closing that experience gap, if that makes sense.
Thank you very much. I don't know if we have any question. Okay. If we don't have any questions, maybe you can give us your closing remark.
Yes, I'd really like to say this. First, I want to thank you guys for, putting this together. I am typically not the person who is, I don't think I'm on any social media, so I'm nowhere. But some way I got connected to this, and I'm really thankful and fortunate to be a part of this movement. And I don't have the silver bullet, right? I don't have that, what do you call it? The crystal ball of, what you can do today that will change your fortune. I don't. Nobody does. If anyone tells you they do, they are selling you baloney. Don't buy it. But here's what I can give to you as someone who, I would say, I've been through some of your struggles, right? I understand. I graduated over 10 years ago. I've left Nigeria for a number of years. I mean, I can't really connect with your reality on a day-to-day like I would have years ago. But nonetheless, I can understand your struggle. I think, the odds are stacked against you and you have to just fight harder, right, to break the jinx. And while you're doing that, or while you're trying to do that, always ask yourself what's valuable, right? Some things that are not valuable, anything that is not valuable cannot be sustained, right? Free handouts cannot be sustained because they are not valuable. But ask yourself, what can I do today that can make me an economic force, right? I mean, when I speak to a lot of graduates, they tell me, yeah, I graduated, I can't find a job. So I ask them, what are you doing? They go, well, I understand the frustration of not trying to of not having a job when you want a job. And we need to leave. We all need a job because we got to pay our bills. But most importantly, build skills. Build good, viable skills. You don't have to be jack of all trades. Anyone that tells you have to be jack of all trades is just BSing you. You don't have to. And here's why. Mechanical engineering makes it hard for you to specialize. Cool, right? Because it is so broad. A lot of people think, yeah, I got to be a pro and guru in thermodynamics, in fluid and mechanics, in computer-aided design, in controls engineering. No, you can't. It's not feasible. That's why in most advanced countries, they are breaking down mechanical engineering into different subsets, right? Some will call it energy, some will call it, advanced fluid, whatever, right? Just break it down so people have specialization. The question you need to ask yourself is, what do you have passion for? And when you find that thing you have passion for, ask yourself, how do I get to the plus 2 standard deviation from the mean? Again, essentially narrowing your tail to the tail end of the bell curve, right? That's where you want to be. And there are skills out there that you can learn, that you can pick on, right? That would really change your fortune as a graduate. One of the other things I want to say is don't limit your chances to your zip code. Okay, don't. You have opportunities more than anyone else to leave the shores of Nigeria. You have opportunities to be in Nigeria and be working for an international company, right? That's all of those things are possibility. So when you try to expand yourself beyond your zip code, right? And lastly here, connect with people and connect with them in good faith. I know people who reach out to me and they're like, oh, you want to send me $100? Well, maybe I can send you $100, but that cannot change the game. As I speak to you, I'm a manager in my company and I'm trying to hire two engineers. And one of the things I found is it's kind of hard to find a good fit. A lot of people are complaining, even in America, I'm not kidding you. I've had job posting for over a month. If you go on my LinkedIn page, you would see it. And it's still hard to hire people. And a lot of people are there complaining, yeah, there is a recession in America, there's blah, 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 blah. But there are a lot of other companies who are willing to hire as well, right? Set yourself apart. Numbers don't lie. Don't have aversion for facts. When you say, oh, I don't want to hear the numbers, I don't want to hear the statistics, you're only fooling yourself. Get in sync with it. Let the numbers motivate you and be committed to your goal. The sky is the limit. That's it.
Thank you very much.